I know I shouldn't be waiting for him to reach out, but I can't help myself. I think about this 24/7. Yeah, I mean, that's normal. But again, we can be upset about it and struggle with it and still not act. We stay no contact when it's hard. We stay no contact when our fingers are itching. We stay no contact when we miss them. We stay no contact when we think about them 24/7. We do it anyway. Because the result that you want, the feelings that you want, come from making those hard, disciplined, consistent decisions every single day. And I promise you, eventually one day you wake up and you feel a little bit better and a little bit better. And then maybe you have a hard day, but then you get back. It's non-linear, but it does get better. How do you cope with rejection from an ex who has moved on when you still have feelings? So I hate the word rejection. Like, what does that mean? Like, the actual definition of rejection is to not be chosen, okay? Now, when you hear that, it's like, ooh, ouch. But the only reason that those phrases and words hurt is because of the connotation that we apply to them. So the story that we apply to those words and phrases is that it means something is bad about us, that someone doesn't choose us. Y'all, there are 8 billion people in the world. I am not gonna be everyone's cup of tea. You are not gonna be everyone's cup of tea. Them's the breaks. 8 billion with a B people. We're not meant to be chosen by everyone. And yes, it hurts when a person who we hoped would choose us doesn't choose us. And we have to mourn that, but it doesn't mean there's something wrong with us. It means we weren't compatible. But we use words like rejection that are like such an ouchy word, and they belong in the garbage because it's data, it's incompatibility. So we have to separate the suffering from the grief. After how many months of no contact should I give up about her coming back? Well, personally, I don't think that we should be striving for. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think it's realistic for us to not hope for reconciliation to an extent, because again, that's not realistic. That's what the human brain does, right? We miss somebody, we kind of want them back. We want the validation. We want to escape the pain. But it's not a timeline thing, right? So what I would say is if she is not coming back to you, that is an incompatibility, and it's something that you should mourn rather than creating your day-to-day experience around staving off the mourning in place of hope. Does that make sense? So we want to grieve and let go alongside acknowledging that our brain is telling us we want them back. But what we don't want to do is hold off on grief in the hopes that they're going to come back. How to finally leave a harmful relationship where your partner has gaslit and excluded you repeatedly. So Isabel, first I want to say, get professional help if you don't think it's safe to leave this relationship. Okay, first and foremost, that is my disclaimer. If you don't feel safe leaving the relationship on your own, seek professional help. If you do feel safe leaving it, I will tell you, it is very, very simple. We overcomplicate it. Now, I didn't say it's easy, but it is simple. You leave. And you leave when you have snot running out of your nose, and you leave if it's in the middle of the night, and you leave when you're kicking and screaming emotionally, and you just do it even though you don't want to, but you know it's what's right, okay? So it's not easy, but it is simple. And what happens is we waffle about, well, should I do this and how should I do it? It's confusing. It's not confusing. And there's nothing to waffle about at some point. Maybe for a while there is, but at some point we reach that juncture where there's nothing to argue about. And we're just scared, and we have to do it scared. And we have to do it distraught, and we have to do it sleep deprived, and we have to do it devastated, okay? But again, first and foremost, always seek professional help from a licensed counselor. All of my clients have to have a therapist, all of them. I do not play a therapist. I do not substitute a therapist. They all have to have one. In no contact since pretty much September when we broke up. Will he come back? I have no idea, sweetie. I have no clue. I'm so sorry. No way for me to know. How do I leave a marriage, have 3 kids? I can't instruct someone on how to leave a marriage. I'm sorry. That's just too big, and it would be irresponsible of me to tell you how to do that. I would work with a therapist on that. What if nothing happened between you and he just has things he's dealing with, but love him? Wait. Personally, I do not believe in waiting. So, you know, my clients hear me say this, but the same road to healthy reconciliation, the key is healthy reconciliation, is the road to getting over someone. It's the same work. The majority of people who are in my community watching my lives are people who lean into some kind of an attachment wound or some bit of codependency. It's not who you are. It's not your identity. It's not a label. It's just something you tend towards because you've practiced it. But what that means is that you might very well be served to do the same work you would do to get over this person, even if you want to get back together with them. It's the same journey to healthy reconciliation. So I am a big fan of just going no contact, taking care of yourself, healing. And if that person is right for you, and if they want to do the work, then you will hear from them. Again, I have had clients receive physical mail on their porches, in their apartment buildings, after going no contact. So this idea that you're gonna like miss the boat if you cut someone out of your life is just not realistic. Because if they want it badly enough, and the thing is, the same person who's probably gonna show, well, that's not true. There are people who like love bomb and like whatnot, but I think you know what I'm saying. Is the chance of ex-partners getting back together who ended in a good way higher than in a bad way? I don't know. I think it would, I would probably want you to define good. I don't know what the definition of a good way would be. I mean, if it's loving and mutual, then it's probably actually more likely that it's final, because it sounds like you're both secure and you know what you want. And if you know what you want and it wasn't working, then unless something substantially has changed, then I wouldn't think it would work. Am I overreacting? My husband told my aunt in front of me, "You're the only one with a pretty face." I mean, if that's the scenario that I'm making it up to be, that would be a deal breaker for me personally. That sounds cruel and unusual. When should I go no contact? They've already withdrawn from me. It feels open-ended. Well, if you guys haven't broken up officially, I would have the official breakup conversation. I wouldn't like slip into no contact while you're still together. But if, again, I think I said this to maybe Felicia earlier, set your standard and decide what works for you. And then decide if their actions align. If we do the reverse, what happens is we start grasping at straws. If we don't say this is my standard and then cut out people who don't meet that standard, we start to cherry pick the things that work. Well, I think they'll change, or I like this about them, or I think it's going to turn into something more serious, or whatever it is. And so we take a reactive, this is really important. We take a reactive approach rather than a proactive approach. We need to be taking proactive approaches to our dating rather than responding in a reactive way, because that is when we will start to make up a story to make it fit what we want it to fit. And we will cherry pick the flags, and we'll ignore this flag, and we'll heighten them, put them on a pedestal, and all that stuff. Thank you. When do things feel better in phases of breaking up, going no contact, or their normal phases? So I don't want to give a specific timeline, because I think that would be irresponsible, because it is a little bit different for everyone. And so I can't say what it would be for you. And I would never want to put a number in your brain and then have you think something's wrong if you're like not 100% healed at that point. Because it really is person to person. However, I do think it's important to keep in mind that social media is addicting. And when people say that, we say that sort of colloquially, but no, there is so much research and science to back how addicting social media is to our brains. And love addiction is a very real thing. And so when you can look at the work of a woman named Dr. Helen Fisher, when we experience romantic rejection, our brains can mimic that of a person who is withdrawing from substance abuse. you will have the same neurotransmitter profile. So we're now talking two addictive substances that your brain is trying to get dopamine from, your ex and social media. And so with all of that said, you can imagine that going no contact is going to push your brain into this place of must reestablish connection, must get the dopamine hit, must, do all, must get on social media, whatever it is. And so what I would say is expect it to be harder before it's easier.